What if I told you that before a single Israeli jet crossed into Iranian airspace, Israel had already won? What if the real war had been fought for years, inside Iran, by agents living among ordinary Iranians, smuggling weapons in suitcases, planting bombs in hotel rooms, and sitting at the highest levels of Iran's own intelligence services? What if Iran's counter-spy unit, the team created specifically to stop Israel, was secretly being run by a Mossad agent? This is not fiction. This is not a conspiracy theory. Every single thing you are about to hear is documented, declassified, and confirmed. This is the war they fought in the dark. And it is far darker than anything you have seen on the news. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, the Middle East will never look the same to you again. Before we go any further, if you are new here, this channel covers the stories the mainstream media buries, the secrets governments try to hide, the truth behind the headlines. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell, because what we cover here you will not find anywhere else. Now, let's get into it. June 13th, 2025, 2 a.m. Tehran is asleep. The night Tehran burned. Then, without warning, the sky cracks open. Explosions erupt across the Iranian capital, one after another. Air defense systems go dark. Military commanders are killed before they can even pick up their phones. Nuclear scientists disappear, taken out in surgical strikes while the city still slept. Iran, a country that spent decades building one of the most extensive defense networks in the Middle East, had been completely and utterly blindsided. But here's what the headlines won't tell you. The war didn't start that night. It had been fought in the shadows for years, in silence, with forged identities, smuggled weapons, invisible drones, and double agents sitting at the very top of Iran's own intelligence services. This is the story they don't want you to know. The real war between Iran and Israel, the darkest one, from allies to enemies. To understand how two countries end up in a shadow war that spans decades, you have to go back to where it all began. Before 1979, Iran and Israel were actually allies. Under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Iran was one of only a handful of Muslim-majority countries that maintained open diplomatic and trade ties with Israel. They shared intelligence. They trained each other's military officers. Iran even supplied oil to Israel. Then came the Islamic Revolution. In 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini swept to power and immediately declared Israel an illegitimate state. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was handed over to Yasser Arafat and the PLO. The relationship didn't just end, it inverted completely. From that moment, Iran's official state ideology included one core promise: the destruction of Israel. And Israel, a country surrounded by enemies, small enough to fit inside some US states, took that threat very seriously. What followed wasn't an open war. It was something far more dangerous. A war fought in basements, embassies, nuclear facilities, hotel rooms, and in the minds of double agents. The Proxy War, Iran's chess pieces. Iran is a clever adversary. Rather than fighting Israel directly, which would invite devastating retaliation, Tehran spent 4 decades building what intelligence analysts call the axis of resistance. Think of it as a chessboard. In Lebanon, Hezbollah, funded, trained, and armed by Iran since the 1980s. At its peak, Hezbollah possessed over 150,000 rockets, more than most European nations' entire militaries. Iran's proxy on Israel's northern border. In Gaza, Hamas, receiving Iranian money, weapons, and training for years. The October 7th, 2023 attack that killed over 1,200 Israelis, the deadliest day for Jewish people since the Holocaust, came from an organization that Iran had helped fund and arm. In Yemen, the Houthis, firing missiles and drones at Israeli and American ships, disrupting global trade in the Red Sea throughout 2024 and 2025. In Iraq, pro-Iranian Shia militias, conducting over 200 attacks on American and Israeli-linked targets in 2023 and 2024 alone. This was Iran's strategy: death by 1,000 cuts. Bleed Israel slowly through proxies, while Tehran kept its hands appearing clean. But Israel had been watching, mapping every piece on that chessboard, and planning how to remove them, one by one. The secret assassinations. Here's where the story gets deeply dark. For over 2 decades, Israel, specifically its intelligence agency, the Mossad, conducted a quiet, relentless assassination campaign against Iran's nuclear scientists. Between 2010 and 2020, at least 5 of Iran's top nuclear scientists were killed in operations that stunned the intelligence world. The most audacious? The 2020 assassination of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, Iran's most important nuclear scientist, the man Western intelligence called the father of Iran's nuclear bomb. He was killed by a remote-controlled machine gun mounted on the back of a pickup truck, triggered via satellite from hundreds of miles away, by Israeli operators who were never physically present at the scene. Let that sink in. A robot sniper, controlled by satellite, in the middle of Iran. No Israeli boots on the ground, no embassy, no escape route needed. And it wasn't just scientists. In July 2024, Ismail Haniyeh, the political chief of Hamas, was assassinated in Tehran, in a government guest house, with a bomb that had been planted in his bedroom weeks before his arrival. Israel had placed a bomb inside a heavily guarded government facility in the capital of its greatest enemy and waited patiently for the right target to walk in. Even more shocking, in 2024, former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad publicly admitted something unthinkable. Iran's own intelligence unit, created specifically to counter Mossad operations, was being led by a Mossad agent. The fox was guarding the henhouse. Around 20 Iranian operatives were revealed to be feeding intelligence directly to Israel. Double agents, at the highest levels of the Islamic Republic. The world's first cyber weapon. But assassinations were only part of the plan. In the early 2000s, Israel and the United States co-developed what cybersecurity experts would later call the world's first true cyber weapon. It was called Stuxnet. This wasn't a simple virus. This was a piece of malware so sophisticated that it specifically targeted the exact brand and model of centrifuges Iran was using at its Natanz nuclear facility. It didn't crash the computers. It didn't send error messages. Instead, it made the centrifuges silently spin faster and faster until they physically destroyed themselves, while simultaneously reporting back to Iranian technicians that everything was perfectly normal. By the time Iranian engineers realized what was happening, an estimated 1,000 centrifuges had been physically destroyed, setting back Iran's nuclear program by years. Iran had been sabotaged from the inside, without a single bullet being fired. The stolen nuclear archive. Then came 2018, and one of the most astonishing intelligence heists in modern history. Mossad agents broke into a nondescript warehouse in Tehran, in the middle of the Iranian capital, and walked out with 500 tons of classified material. More than 100,000 documents, thousands of files, CDs, blueprints, all of it detailing Iran's secret nuclear weapons program, a project codenamed Ahmad, which Iran had publicly denied ever existed. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu unveiled the archive on live television, document by document. Iran had been caught in a lie it had maintained for decades, and Mossad had done it without a single shot fired. by walking into the heart of their enemy's capital, stealing their most classified secrets, and walking back out. We are halfway through this story, and it only gets more unbelievable from here. If this video is opening your eyes, do one thing right now. Share it. Send it to one person who needs to see this. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. We drop videos like this every week, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. All right, back to it. Because what Israel did next made the entire world stop and stare. The pager attack, September 17th, 2024, Lebanon. Across the country, thousands of pagers, communication devices used by Hezbollah members, suddenly explode simultaneously. Not one or two, thousands. In homes, in cars, in hospitals, in pockets, in a single coordinated moment. Over 2,750 people were wounded, at least 12 killed. Hezbollah's entire communication network, gone in seconds. What had happened was almost science fiction. Israeli intelligence had infiltrated Hezbollah's supply chain. They had secretly altered the pager devices, inserting explosive material inside the batteries before the devices even reached Lebanon. The detonation was triggered remotely, simultaneously, on command. The next day, walkie-talkies exploded. Hezbollah had been using devices it thought were secure. In reality, every piece of their communication equipment had been turned into a bomb by an enemy operating silently, patiently, over months. The message to the world was unmistakable. Israel's intelligence reach has no boundaries. Operation Rising Lion, the secret war inside Iran. Which brings us to the night that shocked the world. June 13th, 2025. Operation Rising Lion. What most people saw on the news was a massive Israeli airstrike, over 200 fighter jets, 330 munitions, targeting approximately 100 sites in Iran. Nuclear facilities at Natanz and Fordow, missile launch sites, military bases. But the story happening on the ground, inside Iran, was even more extraordinary. For years before the strike, Mossad agents had been living inside Iran, quietly, patiently, operating undercover. They smuggled weapons into the country, hidden in suitcases, trucks, and shipping containers, building up an arsenal inside Iran's own borders, right under the noses of Iranian security. They built quadcopter drones, small, civilian-looking camera drones, loaded with explosives, and staged them near Iran's air defense missile batteries. When the Israeli airstrikes began, at exactly the right moment, those sleeper drones activated from inside Iran. Iran's own surface-to-air missiles, the systems meant to shoot down incoming Israeli jets, were taken out from behind. Iran's Air Force commanders tried to coordinate a response, but intelligence reports later revealed that Israeli agents had lured those commanders into a meeting and eliminated them all in a single strike before the first fighter jet even crossed the Iranian border. According to a senior Israeli security official, Mossad had recruited a massive network of agents at the highest levels of Iranian military and government, some of them retrained as commando fighters capable of carrying out precision operations from inside the country. AI was used to process years of intelligence, identifying nuclear scientists, mapping command centers, tracking the movements of IRGC generals, building a targeting list so precise that 8 senior Revolutionary Guard commanders were killed in a single underground bunker strike. In just 12 days, Iran lost its air defense, large portions of its nuclear program, its top military leadership, and its sense of invulnerability. The human cost and the aftermath. Wars fought in the shadows still create very real human suffering. The 12-day war of June 2025 ended in a ceasefire, but the consequences did not end. By early 2026, Iran was in political crisis. a mass uprising, the largest protest since 1979, gripped the country. Iranian security forces cracked down brutally on their own citizens. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched another round of strikes, Operation Epic Fury. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed. A man who had led Iran for over 3 decades, who had called for Israel's destruction at every turn, was gone. Iran retaliated by closing the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical oil choke points, disrupting global energy markets and sending shockwaves through the world economy. The world had entered uncharted territory. The bigger question: so what does all of this mean? For decades, the Iran-Israel conflict was called a shadow war, fought by spies, through proxies, with plausible deniability on every side. That shadow war is over. What has emerged is something far more unpredictable, far more dangerous, and far more consequential for the entire world. Iran's nuclear program, the central obsession of Israeli strategy for 20 years, has been severely damaged. But experts are divided on whether it has been truly destroyed or merely delayed. The proxies Iran spent 4 decades building, Hezbollah decimated, Hamas crippled, Assad's Syria collapsed, have been dismantled in less than 2 years. And yet, new leaders are already rising from the ashes. New alliances are forming. The ideology that fuels this conflict has not been destroyed. It has been driven underground. And history tells us, things that go underground don't disappear. They grow. The Iran-Israel war is unlike any conflict in modern history. It is a war fought as much in the shadows as in the skies. A war of forged identities and smuggled drones, of stolen secrets and silent bombs, of double agents sitting in the highest offices of the enemy state. It is a war where the most important battles happen in places the public never sees, and the casualties are rarely counted on the evening news. What you have heard today is documented. It is real. And it is still unfolding, right now, as you watch this video. The question is not whether this war will continue. The question is, how far does it go? Now, if this video gave you something the news never did, prove it. Hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this channel reach people who deserve to know the truth. Subscribe if you are not already. We are just getting started. Drop a comment below and tell me, which part of this shocked you the most? Was it the double agents? The pager bombs? The drones smuggled inside Iran? And share this video. Send it to someone who thinks they already know this story. Because I promise you, they don't.